Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, to me, one of the most important issues, and there's many important issues, but this is one of the most important issues going around, is how the globalists have inserted their creatures into the political parties and governments all across the Western world. So you're looking at most of the key politicians, the senior politicians, the decision-making politicians across the Western world are globalist creatures, invented, created, manufactured, and put forward by the globalists in order to do the bidding of the globalists, while they're duplicitously pretending to be your elected political representative. And of course, nothing of the sort. They're just globalist stooge flunkies getting their marching orders from globalist downtown central. Now, there's certain sort of profiles, and I'm going to do some profiling now, that you can look at and where you can identify fairly easily, actually. It's not that hard to identify the globalist assets that are operating in and across Western governments. Now, when you find politicians, again, anywhere in the Western world that are actively and aggressively and energetically pushing agendas that are not in the interests of the people and are in open defiance of the wishes of the people, then you know you're looking at a globalist asset. Now, if it was a politician who was genuine as pushing policies you don't like, they would explain to you why these things are good. But they can't do that, nor do they. But they act undercover. So they're undercover globalist operatives that are pretending to be your elected representative. But they're nothing of the sort. They're there to push and implement and further the globalist agenda, or whatever peripheral damage occurs to the local population that they pretend and duplicitously pretend to represent. Any collateral damage to the local population, well, that's just too bad. So I'll just go through one now. This is a woman. I won't tell you which jurisdiction. She's actually got a very nice smile. I mean, she's in her mid to late 50s now, I think. And this is, again, someone who's been in, she pushes very hard for mass migration, very, very active in that area. And any attempt to limit or obstruct or hinder mass migration, she is aggressively against it. Not necessarily in public, but certainly around the decision-making table, which she has illegitimately been given a seat at. Now, she's not given a seat at the decision-making table at the apex of political power because she's a genius or she does the heavy lifting on policy or anything like that. Far from it. She's there simply because she is a globalist asset. Now, again, she aggressively pushes for mass migration, the Green New Deal. More and more students from third world countries should be brought into the West, and this. She's on board with every globalist item. I mean, you go down the list of the globalist key items, and she ticks every box. Yet she pretends to represent an electorate that doesn't want any of those things. Now, this is how it begins. She's at a fairly working class area, high school. Folks have got very basic jobs. Dad's like an accountant in some little practice out in the sticks. Mother's just like a receptionist or something. So there's no high-powered sort of background here, and not much money to go around either. But suddenly, so she's an ordinary student until suddenly the final year of high school, and she suddenly is transformed into a genius, a fucking genius. She outperforms the top student in the school, in the district, in the universe. She is a fucking way smarter than any of the boys. She is a fucking genius. Just suddenly it happens. I mean, how could this happen? But there you go. Smartest in the school by far. And then she decides, in spite of being a genius, she decides to take a machine operator apprenticeship at a government-funded, machine automotive type place. they a lot of government protection and funding and so on. They're supposedly a private company, but they don't do shit without government money backing them up. And she gets an affirmative action apprenticeship. Now, here again, here's another sort of alarm bell going off that a creature is being created, because that's what we're seeing here. So in an area that's got chronic youth unemployment, and where there are, would have been thousands, tens of thousands of better qualified, better suited applicants and candidates for the very few apprenticeships that are given out. Instead, they give it to a young woman who's never done any of the handicraft stuffs at high school. She never did the carpentry courses, the metalwork, or the technical drawing, or she never did anything like that might be considered as underwriting or having some sort of relevance to becoming a machine shop apprentice. So bear in mind that she's jumping over the top of many tens of thousands, I would argue, better suited applicants. Now, anyway, she's given that, but unsurprisingly, she ditches it after 18 months. And she goes to university. Now, she starts off at a lower level university, but quickly moves to Ivy League stuff. But she's at university, from what I can gather, for about 7 years. Now, that's a long time. So that means she's from between the age of sort of 18 and 25, or 19 and 26. I'm not quite sure there. But anyway, for that time, she's a full-time university student. Now, there's no way her folks can even dream of affording more than a very small portion of these fees. So there's implications of backdated scholarships that pay for it. Again, another glaring red sign that the boys downtown, the globalist boys downtown, have identified her as an asset, and they're creating this creature that will become their usable asset down the track. Now, I've listened to public interviews she gives, and she doesn't come across as a complete and utter moron. She ain't no genius, but there's nothing about her that's even remotely exceptional. So there is no way a talent scout would look at her and say, wow, this chick is like really fucking smart. This chick is really going to go places. Nor was she, she's not bad looking, but she's no beauty queen. She doesn't have any of that, empathy, human warmth crap stuff that would say she's in possession of great charm. She has none of that. So they've identified her as a controllable asset, and but on what basis, I don't know. Just someone can be controlled. But again, there's neither beauty, there's no brains, there's nothing there that would, I think, make her stand out, other than their ability to control her and to mold her into the creature that will become useful for them. Now, again, immediately another red light comes up here. She walks straight at you. Remember, she's achieved, produced, created, built nothing, nor is she an exceptional student. She's neither beautiful or bright or clever or anything. So nothing to separate her from anyone else in terms of credentials. And yet she walks straight into a prestigious, well-paid job in the financial sector. Now, whenever people go straight out of college, either to big consulting or big finance, straight away, this is like, well, that's it. You're looking at the possibility, not the guarantee of, but the possibility of, here is a globalist creature in the making. And that's what she walks into. Then goes out of that, and again, produces, creates, achieves nothing there, and then moves into a very well publicized, big name, high tech startup company that is supported by the same financial industry sector that gave her the well-paying, prestigious job. So clearly they're appointing and delivering their stooges into this, and she makes a lot of money out of that. Again, does nothing, and is even if you were generous, she was at best a very ordinary employee, again, who produced and achieved nothing. If she does have outstanding sort of people supervision abilities, yeah, it certainly doesn't come across. So she gets this. Then she claimed she was somewhere in some. I think she was doing some short-term post-grad study of some sort, again in another area that was nothing more than a globalist creature creation sort of house. And there she meets a 4'10" or 4'9" Jewish lesbian who somehow manages. I mean, can you imagine you come across a 4'9" Jewish lesbian, and somehow this person has massive influence over you, and they say, you know what, I think you should get into politics, and that's it. Suddenly it's a seminal moment, and that's it. The heavens have spoken, and you decide you're going to become a fucking politician purely based on this very unimpressive. I mean, what credentials does this person have to make such an assessment? So anyway, there's no, and this is all bullshit. This was all prearranged in a back room, and then she was shoehorned straight into a guaranteed political gig, and then another one, and then she was given one of the safest electoral districts in the country, for fuck's sake. But that was 400 miles away from where she lived. But who cares? Who the fuck cares? We'll just parachute her in, and so the party machine is involved here in making it. So we've got big finance, the political party machinery, the whole thing's coming together as one seamless pathway to globalist stoogehood, and here it is on full display. Now, it only took me a few minutes to put this together, so it's easy to spot. It's not like I had to bust my ass for days extracting information from all over the place. Then within 3 fucking years, this unimpressive person leapfrogs over several hundred of her colleagues to the politicians, leapfrogs over several hundred of colleagues to be given a senior government decision-making position. She, in the meantime, marries a very rich lobbyist who lobbies for the defense industry. Now, she's also a member of numerous women's activist groups and other that. Now, look, in my view, if you're in Parliament, you represent the people. This is not a matter for debate, not a matter for discussion, not a matter for, I'll think about it. Really, my bosses are the globalists. No. You represent the people. Now, anything that suggests or infers a conflict of interest in that, such as she represents women's lobby groups that are women's activist groups that are controlled by the United Nations and the fucking World Economic Forum and various activist NGOs. You've got a conflict of interest. That's it. You cannot represent the people. If you're elected to the House of Representatives, then you represent all of the people. The people in your electoral district, obviously, but you represent the citizens of the nation. You do not represent outside interests. You do not represent the World Economic Forum. And if you want to represent the World Economic Forum, no, that's fine. You go off and do that. But you can't sit in Parliament and say you're representing the people unless you do. You have to represent the people fully and absolutely and without prejudice and without external influence. And this is something we need to start insisting on here in the Western world, because the globalists have inserted so many of their agents and stooges and flunkies and goons into the political process and sitting in Parliament and in the public service and so on. And there really needs to be a heavy crackdown on this. This is not acceptable. They are deliberately and willfully plotting and planning to subvert democracies all over the Western world by putting their stooges in there. And they've actually got a production line, for fuck's sake, to build and create and manufacture these stooges and then insert them. So here's this ordinary woman who probably couldn't get a job. Maybe she could get a job as a suburban something, working in a shop or something. There's no way she'd have she could maybe be an HR manager in some out of the way factory or some shit like that. But that's it. That's the extent of her capability. But we've got this low capability person who's now, one of the most influential politicians. If you look at the top 100 politicians in the Western world, she'd be in that list of the top 100. Not because of brains, not because of capacity, not because she's dedicated to the citizenry, not because she wants to produce policy, and none of that. She's just a representative stooge flunky of the fucking globalists. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.